Hello, homeschool friends. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Heather, and this is our 5th year homeschooling. And right now I have a 5th grader and a 1st grader. And what I wanted to share with you today was how we have incorporated more writing into our just daily studies and what has been working for us as something that I've changed this year, and I wanted to share it with you. My daughter is 10 and she's always kind of struggled with loving writing. She is a ferocious reader, but to be honest, she would rather stab herself with a pencil than to put it to the paper. She has the most amazing ideas, but it's like her brain just goes faster than her hand can move. So I want to share with you kind of how I've scaffolded that and how I've worked on more writing in our homeschool this year. So the thing that I've started doing is writing more. So we are still using Essentials in Writing Level 5 for my daughters. We're still using this. But in addition to that, in our morning time, when we do science and history and geography, I have been including writing every week with their written narrations. And I've also been including my 6-year-old in that. And so basically what we do, whatever we're studying, I pick out something from that week that I want them to write about. So at the very beginning of the year, we kicked off our year with a space unit study. And so a couple of the written narrations that my kids did look like this. So we studied the sun. This was from my 6-year-old. And then my older daughter here, and then we just incorporate some kind of like fun art directed drawing with that. Now for my son, he orally narrates to me and I write it down, and we talk about all the things that make a sentence, correct spacing, capitalization, punctuation, and I use that as an opportunity with him to just work on writing a complete sentence. He does not do a formal writing curriculum at this point in time. And so my goal for him this year is to just increase the amount that he is writing. So I write it for him, and then he copies it onto here. So that's like his copy work for the week as well. Then for my daughter, what I started doing was the same thing. However, I kind of pulled away from it. Like in the beginning, she would orally narrate everything to me and I would write it down for her. And then a couple weeks into it, I would write half of it for her, and then I would let her write the other half, and we would go through and edit it together, and then she would copy it onto here. And then now she's at the point where she's fully writing it herself, we're editing it, and then she's doing final copy on her own. So I've kind of like slowly pulled away from her with the written narrations. But I want to show you how you can kind of use this with whatever it is that you're doing and studying. So like I said, we did space, and so they wrote about meteors one week, and then we did like a fun illustration with it. So not only do I use it in our science, but I used it with our history as well. We did, let me grab it, a study on westward expansion, and when we were studying the War of 1812, we had written this book, and then they just wrote some peace poems on their own and illustrated them. So just little simple ways to like add more writing into your day. When we studied the gold rush during that study, again, they wrote about the gold rush. They told me what they learned. I asked them, what stood out to you? What did you learn? What do you want to remember from this? So those are some of the questions that I asked them when I'm asking them to narrate back to me. And that takes some practice too. Like, Mom, what are you asking me to, what are you wanting me to say? So it kind of takes some practice if you're not already doing oral narrations in your homeschool, but give it a shot. Another way that I pull it in is every morning we read a novel together at breakfast. Right now we are in the middle of this series that my kids love, and sometimes when a new character pops in to the story, we'll dive in a little bit deeper. So in this story, a little raccoon was introduced, a new character, and so we did a little study on raccoons, and then my kids wrote about raccoons, and we did a little drawing to go with it. So it's meaningful to what we're studying, and they really seem to enjoy it. My daughter is currently reading this book for her independent work, and there was a new character that was introduced, and so we did a little dictation work with it where I just pulled out a quote from the new character, which was this satellite named Guardian, and I read one of the quotes from the book and just had her copy it with correct spelling, punctuation, and then did a fun art project to go with it, and she really enjoyed it. This past week we studied apples. So these were a couple of our favorites from this past week in our science unit. And then they did some apple narrations, and you can see, like, you know, my little guy is just still working on spacing and capitalization, punctuation, just what makes a complete sentence. And my daughter's working on, you know, her paragraph and those skills. So that has really worked well for us this year, and I plan to continue to do this every week with them, is to find some way to incorporate more writing into just our daily studies. I hope you find that helpful. If you're interested in any of these units on what we have done, what we've studied here, let me know in the comments. I'll be more than glad to share with you more information on that. So I hope that's helpful. I know that writing can sometimes be a struggling subject for some kiddos. Some kiddos it's super easy, but you know, if your kiddo is struggling with writing, maybe this is a way that you can help incorporate that into your daily lessons.